I'm David. No, it's like hello, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Like, say hi.
All right. Hello, this is David McKerracher,
And this is McKerracher.
and you're listening to Theory Underground.
That's the
and after
intro
the music
song.
goes. Today we're joined by a special guest,
Julie McKerracher, Dave's mom.
a woman who needs no further introduction. Everybody already knows everything about her, right? First of all, she's the one who is the visionary and hardest worker of and for the farm at McKerracher Family Farm. Dad being, but arguably the harder. Who would you say is the harder worker here, Mom?
It goes back and forth.
It goes back and forth. Good. That's sounds like a good domestic relationship.
Dad is the builder and all things infrastructure, whereas I'm more the visionary and the all things gardening.
Day to day. You're the more day to day person, whereas he's the building the important sort of capital investment stuff,
And
like
fixing things when they need fixed.
fixing the car, fixing the tractor.
Building the house, building the hoop houses. He did everything that you see, he built himself.
Okay, so shout out to Dad. But anyway, bringing it back to Mom, these are the two most important women in my life, obviously. And it's very interesting to be reading Xenophon's Oeconomicus for the philosophy of stewardship and home economics because it has this very, very traditional take on gender roles that it tried to, in a sort of mythical way, lay out as being based in differences in biology, which, I mean, there's obviously something to it, but it's also not very politically correct. And so we were reading that yesterday. I gave Mom this sort of speed run of the first 7 books. But for those who've been following along with the philosophy of stewardship course, in the first lecture, Anne and I read from the previous book, right?
I think so. Maybe chapter 6 and or 7.
Yeah, and that was the part where it was talking about, the guy being a more outside person and the woman being a more inside person and doing what the gods fitted us to. And Mom was like, well, I must have got my wires crossed. You want to explain why you said that, Mom?
Because right from a little child, I was always an outside person. I was never an inside person. And housework is always going to be my downfall. I've never been good at it, never been interested in it. I like organizing and I like a clean house, but if there's a choice between something inside and something outside, I'm outside every time.
Yeah, and Dad's not exactly a house cleaner kind of guy. And so Mom and Dad both do what they have to, but it's not like either one of them feels like it's their calling. And yeah, no, I think Mom's doing a lot of the stuff that Xenophon's gentleman, Oeconomicus, thought was, kind of naturally fitted to the man. But I find it interesting, this division that they were laying out in the previous books between the sexes is a very, it's almost like a 1950s idea of domesticity. And the vision that Mary Harrington lays out in Feminism Against Progress, she says, no, we don't want to go back to the 1950s. We want to go back to the 1450s. And she basically says that men and women were, in the 1450s, co-workers for estates or for, if they were peasants and it wasn't, say, an estate of their own, well, they're still a constant working unit. And so there wasn't like this strict dividing line between like, oh, she just does everything inside and he does everything outside. They were both like helping in all kinds of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women also played a really important social role in societies before having to go work for a boss.
Yeah. Yeah, before men had to start going and working for bosses as well. You can't think about most artisans or tradesmen as guys who are working for bosses. It's like once you're a blacksmith, you're a blacksmith.
Yeah, but even going back to, if you went back to the 1450s, it's interesting that to this day we still have and admire what's called cottage gardens. And I would say that yes, men did the outside work, women did the inside work, but the cottage gardens was kind of a bleed off from the inside work, because cottage gardens have always been designed and run by women. So they kind of bled over. Once they managed their inside work, they did the outside right close to the house.
Yeah.
And they designed the cottage gardens, whether it was for beauty or for the little herb garden for the kitchen or the little vegetable garden for their household. The cottage garden has always been a feminine construct.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I think Joel Salatin even talks about this, about how the livery and the cellar or the pantry or the shop or the garage, like all of these things have to be in close proximity, and you have it so that the high traffic zones through the house and around the premises closest to the house make it really easy to keep things where they
Those
belong.
are permaculture
Principles, yeah.
principles.
Well, and so that's a good segue into what we're going to do here, which is read book 8 of the Oeconomicus. It's only a few pages long. It's not like we're going to be here very long. It's like, yeah, it's 4 pages. But you know, depending on how we feel, we might talk about it a little bit. And but wait a second. Does book 9? I think, yeah, no, actually, we read a little bit of book 9 too, but it's only like 6 pages. Okay. So, and then later in the Oeconomicus gets into stuff that I think Mom's gonna really like. She really obviously liked the part where Socrates was saying that farming is the highest art form.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes back to. It's almost like at some point Socrates is like, okay, I'm fine hearing about the things that you taught your wife. Now let's get back to farming. But for now, we're on page 36 of Xenophon's Socratic Discourse and Interpretation of Oeconomicus by Leo Strauss. If, you know, you can either follow along that way or just listen with us. Mom's following along from the computer. She said that she confessed that her reading aloud abilities have deteriorated. And so she prefers to listen to us read it. We were trying yesterday and she was stumbling a lot, but I thought she was doing just fine, by the way. With that said, Anne and I will take it away with the reading. And so,
And
are you
before we
Socrates
begin,
or are you?
oh gosh, I'm fine with whoever. I just wanted to let it be known that we've got 3 little girls in this room. We got a little cat at the table who's sound asleep to the soothing tone of our voices reading. She's very excited. She's been waiting all morning. We've got 2 dogs, and then there's a little boy, baby boy, who's like kicking me in the gut right now. Really excited for this. So I just wanted the audience to be in on that.
Yeah.
Set the scene for ya.
And for anyone who missed everything else, just look, it's a Socratic discourse. And right now, Socrates is telling Critobulus, some rich kid who he's trying to smack some wisdom into, about this gentleman named Ischomachus. And so he's relaying a conversation that he apparently had with Ischomachus. He says, "Did you notice, Ischomachus, that she was stirred to diligence by these things?" She being his wife. Ischomachus is telling the story of the things that he taught his young wife in order to make it so that stuff would be cleaner around the house and things would be in their proper place.
So I guess I'm Ischomachus.
Yeah.
"Yes, by Zeus," said Ischomachus, "I know she once became very upset and blushed deeply when she was unable to give me one of the things I had brought in when I asked for it. Seeing she was irritated, I spoke. 'Don't be discouraged, woman,' I said, 'because you can't give me what I happen to ask for. It is indeed clear poverty not to have a thing to use when it's needed. At the same time, our present want to look for something and be unable to find it is certainly a less painful thing than not to look for it at all, knowing it's not there. But you aren't at fault in this,' I said. 'Rather, I am, since I handed over these things to you without giving orders as to where each kind of thing should be put, so that you would know where to put them and where to find them again. There is nothing, woman, so useful or fine for human beings as order. A chorus consists of human beings. When each acts in a chance way, when each acts in a chance way, a confusion appears that is unlovely even to look at. But when they act and speak in an ordered manner, the same ones seem worth looking at and worth hearing as well. And, woman, I said, a disordered army is a thing of the greatest confusion, the easiest prey for its enemies, and for its friends a most inglorious and useless sight. Mules, heavy-armed soldiers, baggage carriers, light-armed soldiers, horsemen, and wagons, all together. For how could they march if they were constantly getting in one another's way? The slow marcher obstructing the fast marcher, the fast marcher colliding with someone who is standing still, the wagon blocking the horseman, the mule blocking the wagon, the baggage carrier blocking the heavy-armed soldier. And if they had to fight, how could they ever do it in this condition? The ones who were compelled to flee before the attackers would be apt to trample the ones actually under arms. An ordered army, on the other hand, is the finest sight for friends and the most appalling for enemies. What friend wouldn't look with pleasure on a large number of heavy-armed soldiers marching in order, or wonder at the horsemen riding in ordered groups? What enemy wouldn't be terrified by the sight of heavy-armed soldiers, horsemen, targeteers, archers, and slingers, all distinctly arranged and following their rulers in an orderly way? For when they march in order, though there be tens of thousands of them, all march calmly as one man. The empty spaces are always filled by those coming up from behind. And why else is a trireme laden with human beings a fearful thing for enemies, and for friends a thing worth looking at, unless it is because it sails quickly? And how else do those who sail in it keep out of one another's way, unless it's by sitting in order, bending forward in order, drawing back in order, and
I think a trireme must be like one where they're all rowing together. Yeah. That must be, because he's talking about leaning forward and bending back, yeah.
How else do those who sail in it keep out of one another's way, unless it's by sitting in order, bending forward in order, drawing back in order, and embarking and disembarking in order? Disorder is the sort of thing, it seems to me, that would result if a farmer threw together in one place his barley and wheat and peas, and then, when he needed barley cakes or bread or sauce, had to separate them grain by grain, instead of having them already distinctly arranged for use.
I just realized this is basically going to be like a monologue, and so at the point that you want me to take over, I can take over. But so far, you're all following along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'm happy.
It goes well with the Booker T. Washington quote that we read at the McKerracher Family Farm Retreat, where he was talking about how in the schoolhouse every day, where's the broom? Where's the broom? Everyone's always looking for the broom. And he said, why don't they just teach everyone where the broom goes?
Yeah.
And he said, schools don't teach people to put things where they go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lesson that most schools seem to have not learned, even though Booker T. Washington was saying that in 1907? Yeah, it's a very basic thing. Stewardship is not about, I legally own something. It's, do you know how to use it? And is it useful when you want to use it? And so one of the biggest problems we have on the farm is, where's this tool?
That I need right now, and now I'm walking around for 5 to 10 minutes looking for it. I mean, we're guilty of it in our own room. I was looking for paper with our ticket information last night. I don't know where it got put. So
I lose my phone and my keys every day.
All the time. Yeah. So it's something I think we just it hasn't been instilled in people as a value, as something that will like literally make our lives better. Instead, it's a chore. It becomes a chore, and I'm very resistant to chores. I've always been resistant to being told that I have to do this thing. And so if you can reframe the order as something that is meaningful, that makes life meaningful, that gives life more time, that is value, then maybe it won't be so difficult.
Well, rather than looking at it as a chore, what he said earlier makes sense. He said that you're a rich man if you have something and you can access it and use it. Mm-hmm. Even if you have it and you can't access it or you don't know how to use it, you're not a rich man, you're a poor man. So
Right.
we just have still in our heads, do we want to be rich or poor?
Right.
If we want to be rich, we better know how to use all our tools and have a place for them and be able to access them. Otherwise, you're no better than a poor man who doesn't have anything.
Right. Right.
You might be more frustrated because at least Socrates, he said he doesn't have nearly as much as Critobulus, but he said, at least I'm free of those things. And it's like,
Right.
if you have those things, but you can't use those things, now you're really in trouble.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay.
But I'm happy to keep reading.
This is part 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably best that I am the one who say woman. I think it's funny.
This has become such a funny thing for us. I say, by
Zeus, woman.
I say, by Zeus, woman. I do it all the time now. She laughs every time.
We're going to get t-shirts, hats, merch. Don't worry, guys. It's all coming. Excuse me. Okay. If you would rather avoid this confusion, woman, and want to know how to manage our substance accurately, how to find easily whatever is needed for use, and how to oblige me by giving me whatever I ask for, then let us choose a place that is appropriate for each kind of thing, and, after putting it there, let us teach the waiting maid to take the thing from there and to put it back again. In that way we shall know what's secure and what isn't, for the place itself will miss the thing that isn't there. A glance will indicate what needs attention, and the knowledge of where each thing is will put it quickly into our hands, so that we'll be at no loss when it comes to using it. And I saw what seemed to me the finest and most accurate ordering of implements, Socrates, when I went to look over that large Phoenician ship. I saw there a very great number of implements divided within a rather small space. Indeed, he said, it takes a great many implements, wooden things and ropes, to launch and land the ship, and it sails with much so-called suspended rigging. It is armed with many devices for use against enemy ships, carries arms for the men, and brings for the common mess all the implements that human beings use in the house. Besides all this, it is loaded with the cargo that the owner transports for profit. And everything I have mentioned, he said, is kept in a place not much larger than a room proportioned for 10 couches. I noticed that everything is kept in such a way that nothing obstructs anything else or requires anyone to search for it, or is so inaccessible or so difficult to remove as to cause a delay when needed for some sudden use. I found that the boatswain, the so-called man of the prow, knew so well the place of each kind of thing that he could say, without being there, just where everything was kept and how many there were of each kind, and no less exactly than the knower of letters could say how many letters are in Socrates and what their order is. I saw this same one, said Oeconomicus, inspecting at his leisure all the things that would have to be used on the ship, and wondering at this examination, he said, I asked him what he was doing. He spoke. Stranger, he said, I am examining how the things in the ship are kept, in case anything should happen, he said, or in case anything is missing or is awkwardly placed. For when the god raises a storm at sea, there is no time to search for whatever may be needed or to get out something from an awkward place. The god threatens and punishes the slack. If only he doesn't destroy those who have not gone wrong, one should be satisfied. And if he preserves those who serve him in the finest manner, one should be very grateful, he said, to the gods. Having observed, then, the accuracy in this arrangement, I said to my wife that we would be very slack indeed if those in ships, which after all are rather small, find places for their things and preserve the order among them, even when they are roughly tossed about, and are able even in moments of panic to find what is needed. Whereas we, who have large and distinct storerooms in our house for each kind of thing, and indeed have a house on solid ground, cannot find a place for each of our things where they may readily be found. How could this be anything but the greatest unintelligence on our part? That an ordered arrangement of implements is a good, then, in that it is easy to find in the house an advantageous place for each kind of thing has been established. But how fine it looks, too, when shoes of any kind are set out in a regular manner. It is fine to see clothes of any kind when they are sorted, as also bed covers, bronze kettles, the things pertaining to the table, and, what of all things would be most ridiculed, not indeed by the solemn man, but by the wit. Even pots have a graceful look when distinctly arranged. Indeed, all other things look somehow finer when they are kept in order. Each kind of thing looks like a chorus of implements, and even the space between them looks fine, as everything has been kept out of it, just as a circular chorus is not only itself a fine sight, but even the space within it looks pure and fine. If I am speaking the truth, woman, I said, it will be possible for us to try these things without suffering much loss or going to much trouble. Nor should we be discouraged, woman, I said, by the difficulty of finding someone who can learn the places and remember to replace each kind of thing. For we know very well that the whole city has 10,000 times what we have, yet when you tell any one of the servants to buy something for you in the marketplace, he is never at a loss. Every one of them evidently knows where he has to go for each kind of thing. The cause of this, I said, is nothing other than that everything is kept ordered in its place. But if someone goes looking for another human being, who may at the same time be looking for him, he very frequently gives up before finding him. And the cause of this is nothing other than that there is no ordered place for their meeting. As regards the order of implements and their use, I seem to remember discussing with her things of this sort. And that's book 8.
It's book 8. So we'll read a few more pages, but first I'm curious to hear from you too. I said that, and then Anne was like, I'll be right back. So, Mom, so far, does this make you excited to want to organize your shop down on the farm with Anne?
Well, it's been something that's been weighing on me for a long time, but it's just, there's never been time to prioritize it. I am hopeful that we will have time to prioritize it and actually get it done.
I think we totally have time, this week.
This week, yeah.
It's like this week is probably the week. Yeah, and I just have to say, like, my biggest frustration for my whole life when it comes to stuff, it's not just, oh, where does this go? It's that so many things don't have a place where they go. And when they get put away, they're not handy, they're not useful. And so then I want to pull them out and put them on the table so that they're handy. But then, of course, they're in the way of where all the food goes. And then I go, we don't have enough tables. We should have tables everywhere.
The whole room is tables.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And the big magical thing that I discovered, just because Anne helped me see it, the fact is it was already all around me, everywhere we went, everyone was already doing it. But when we were at IKEA, I really noticed it, was what?
Calyx squares.
Calyx squares, Calyx cubes.
Calyx dressers.
They call them units, right? They have 1 by 2, 1 by 1. The most, I think, useful and common are 2 by 4.
And 3 by 3.
And basically they're 13 by 13 by 14 or 15 inch cubes that you can put stuff in. And it's, it's basically just shelving, except that it's uniform.
Sectioned off. Like they're, rather than just shelves, you have sections.
And then there's all these things that get made to fit inside those spaces, whether they're sectional organizers, like horizontal, so you can put different pieces of paper or different kinds of books that way. But then there's also, obviously, you can put books upright. And then there's cloth sort of like bins, drawers that you can put in.
Baskets in there, see-through drawers, like little netted baskets. You don't have to put anything in there. And so we have a handful of those in our room. And that's where, like, he says to his woman, he's like, it's easy. It'll be easy. And it's always tackling clutter and finding a place for everything. It always feels like such a daunting task to me because I feel like it's something that it has to be done 100% at least once. And that's where it's like cleaning is it's so easy to get 90% done. And then that last 10% is so hard. But with having an ordered space, if you never get to the last 10%, then you're 90%. And then over the course of a week or two, it goes back down to 80 or 70 or 60% because that 10% is getting in the way. And so it feels like something that has to be done perfectly one time so that you can say, this is where everything goes. And maybe that's a bad, like, the perfectionist in me, but I feel like it is an instance where if you're going to have an ordered house, you have to put everything away at least one time. Everything has to be assigned a place at least once, so at least you know when you're cluttered or you leave it out where it belongs again. You know, and that feels daunting, but maybe because it's become like this big task versus, oh, I get to go into my space and make it, ordered. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, for me, it's like I want to be able to find pleasure in organizing. I want to find pleasure in putting things where they go, and for that to be a leisure activity, not like a job. And it's obviously not quite there yet, but when it comes to that final 10% or that final 20% of the cleaning, if you especially think about when you're a kid and you clean everything and there's just like this stuff, and well, that is usually what they call the junk drawer, right?
True.
And the thing about the calyx cubes, I think, is that you could just have a couple or 3 or 4 junk drawers, and the idea would be that instead of it just being one big jumbled junk drawer, it becomes like, oh, well, there's a paper junk drawer, there's the electrical junk drawer, there's the tool junk drawer, and those are the main 3, I think, for me. And so I actually did that down in the office, and I'm sitting happy. That's for sure.
Yeah, or I even saw someone kind of set up a system in their house where she's like, oh, we were always dealing with so much clutter, so I just went to the thrift store and bought so many baskets, and now everything has a basket, including a basket for when you don't want to put something away right away. So it is kind of that, oh, I'll put it away later, but it's at least out of the way. It's not sitting somewhere important or getting in the way. And it's like, yeah, I like that. And I feel like, life hack, everyone, just get pregnant and then you'll be like nesting and you'll have this like biological drive to organize your space, and I feel like that is overriding my resistance to it. So I'm like I have to do it. Like, not like, oh, I have to do it, but I'm like, I want the space to be ready for this baby so that we can just function and not be dealing with the clutter. And it feels like much more urgent than it ever has in my life. So that's one way to make it happen. Have a baby.
There you go. Book 9. What then, Oeconomicus, I said, did your wife seem to listen at all to what you were trying to so seriously teach her? What else did she do, if not promise to be diligent, manifest her very great pleasure, as though she had found some easy means out of a difficulty, and ask... Wait. Oh, this is the response from Oeconomicus. Okay, I was reading it like it was still Socrates. What else did she do, if not promise to be diligent, manifest her very great pleasure, as though she had found some easy means out of a difficulty, and asked me to order things separately as quickly as possible in the way I had stated? How then, Oeconomicus, I said, did you separately order them for her? What else seemed best to me, if not to show her first the capacity of the house? For it is not adorned with decorations, Socrates. The rooms were planned and built simply with a view to their being the most advantageous receptacles for the things that would be in them, so that each calls for what is suitable to it. The bedroom, being an interior part of the house, invites the most valuable bed covers and implements. The dry parts of the dwelling, the grain, the cool places, the wine, and the well-lighted places, the works and implements that need light. And I displayed to her the areas for the daily use of human beings, furnished so as to be cool in summer and warm in winter. And I displayed to her the house as a whole, and how it lies open to the south, obviously, so as to be well exposed to the sun in winter and well shaded in summer. Then I pointed out to her the women's apartments, separated from the men's by a bolted door, so that nothing may be taken out that shouldn't be, and so that the servants may not produce offspring without our knowledge. Oh my gosh. Wait a second. So they, so they segregated their men from their women servants, and they bolted the men's door at night so they couldn't go making offspring without their knowledge. This is one of the things we haven't touched on really, is that one of the advantages they had over us is that they had a staff, and that's kind of like the traditional aristocrat when it comes to household management. It's like, yes, everything has a place and every servant has a task, and it's all about training up the servants. But for us, we are the staff.
We are the staff. We are the servants. We are the maids. We are the cooks.
But we do have some modern amenities that replace servants. You know, we don't have to do the laundry
Dishwasher, laundry
as much.
machine,
You can just throw a load in a washer, dryer. Then, you know, somebody ultimately has to fold it and put it away. But, you know, it's still, it doesn't 100% replace a person.
Do you have something to add, Ginger? She's been like putting her leg up or her paw up on me. I think she likes it when I read.
Ginger, are you trying to talk? Are you trying to talk, Ginger? Yeah, so that's our dog saying hello. But yeah, servants, we don't have them, but we do have machines, and sometimes they can actually help us, you know.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully more over time. I think that we're preparing ourselves for a time when we're going to have our household robots that will be multifunction, and once we can actually train them up, this book will be more relevant than ever.
Ginger, stop. Sorry. Yeah, I think even like on the farm, we're, you know, hoping long term that we can have employees in the future. Not necessarily a full staff, but like a couple people who are also invested, know where things go. It's great to have, you know, the neighbor kids come and help and do a task. They don't have the same investment in the farm as if they were like a paid employee who cares about farming. And then, yeah, same with the household. It's like we'd love to get to a place where we could afford a house cleaner once a month. It's like my mom has someone who
Ginger,
comes.
Go lay down. Ginger.
Dogs.
Sorry, Ginger's getting all hyper, and then she's trying to rile up Daisy. No, go lay down. She came over, she started hitting Anne. She was like lifting her paw up, and she was straight up hitting Anne with it. Scratched her.
She says, "I'm offended by this book."
Yeah, we're gonna change your name, Ginger, to woman. Go lay down, woman. Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, I think we found the nerve. Actually, she's like,
look, she's offended.
She might be the reincarnation of poor Oeconomicus's wife. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, it's like we would like to get to a point where we can afford a house cleaner once a month. My mom has one, and she's tackling like my mom's shower, just like things that you technically should be. Oh, you gotta clean the dishwasher filter once a month and empty the dryer vents and clean your shower. It's like, when does any of us have time for that? And so there are these modern, whether it's tools and machinery and appliances, or get some help every once in a while to take that off your plate.
Yeah, that's the dream. Then I pointed out to her the women's apartments, separated from the men's by a bolted door, so that nothing may be taken out that shouldn't be, and so that the servants may not produce offspring without our knowledge. For the useful ones, for the most part, feel even more goodwill once they have had children. But when wicked ones are paired together, they become only more resourceful in their bad behavior.
Wow.
Wow, that's deep. Oh, okay. So having children makes you a better citizen if you were already a good person. But if you were a wicked person and you have kids, you actually become a worse person. I never really thought about the trade-off there. So yeah, I'm anti-natalist for bad people.
No comment.
When we had gone through these things, he said, we then proceeded to separate our belongings according to tribes. We began first, he said, by collecting whatever we use for sacrifices. After this, we distinguished the women. And by the way, nowadays that would probably mean entertainment. After this, we distinguished the women's ornaments for festivals, the man's dress for festivals and war, bed covers for the women's apartments, bed covers for the men's apartments, shoes for the women, shoes for men. Another tribe consisted of arms, another of instruments for spinning, another of instruments for bread making, another of instruments for cooking, another of the things for bathing, another of the things for kneading bread, another of the things for the table. And all these things were further divided according to whether they were used every day or only for festivals. We also set apart the expenses for each month from the amount that had been calculated and reserved for the whole year. For in this way, we could better see how things would come out at the end. And when we had sorted our belongings according to tribes, we took each kind of thing to its appropriate place. After this, as to the implements the servants use from day to day, those for the making of bread, for cooking, for spinning, and others of the sort, we pointed out to those who would be using them where each must go, handed them over, and gave orders that they be kept secure. Those we used for festivals, for entertaining foreigners, or only from time to time we handed over to the housekeeper, and after pointing out to her their places and counting and making lists of the various kinds of things, we told her to give each what he needed of them, to remember what she had given someone, and when she had got it back, to return it to the place she had taken it from. We chose as housekeeper the one who, upon examination, seemed to us the most self-controlled as regards food, wine, sleep, and intercourse with men, and who in addition seemed to have a good memory and the forethought to avoid punishment for negligence and to consider how, by gratifying us in some way, she might be honored by us in return. We taught her also to feel goodwill toward us, sharing our delights when we were delighted in some way, and when there was something painful, inviting her aid. We further educated her to be eager to increase the household, making her thoroughly acquainted with it and giving her a share in its prosperity. And we inspired justice in her, honoring the just more than the unjust, and displaying to her that they live richer and freer lives than the unjust. We then installed her in the place. But in addition to all these things, Socrates, he said, I told my wife that there would be no benefit in any of this unless she herself was diligent in seeing that the order is preserved in each thing. I taught her that in the cities subject to good laws, the citizens do not think it enough merely to have fine laws, but in addition choose guardians of the laws to examine them, to praise the one who acts lawfully, and to punish the one who acts contrary to the laws. Then, he said, I suggested to my wife, consider herself a guardian of the laws regarding the things in the house, that she inspect the implements whenever it seems best to her, just as a garrison commander inspects his guards, that she tests the fitness of each thing, just as the council tests the fitness of horses and horsemen, and that, like a queen, she praise and honor the deserving to the limit of her capacity, and rebuke and punish the one who needs such things. In addition, he said, I taught her that she could not be justly annoyed if I gave her many more orders in regard to our possessions than I gave to the servants, displaying to her that the servants share in their master's wealth only to the extent that they carry it, attend to it, or guard it, and that no one of them is allowed to use it unless the Lord gives it to him, whereas everything is the master's to use as he wishes. To the one deriving the greatest benefit from its preservation and the greatest harm from its destruction belongs the greatest concern for a thing. This I declared to her. And I think that's a nice little definition, actually, of ownership in a world where it's rarely going to be the case that it's just so easy and cut and dry that the man is the ultimate be all end all master of everything or whatever. But a lot of these principles ring true regardless of that, and that this is a good definition, I think. To the one deriving the greatest benefit from its preservation and the greatest harm from its destruction belongs the greatest concern for a thing. What then, I said, after your wife had heard these things, Oeconomicus, did she at all obey you? What else did she do? He said. If not, tell me. I didn't understand her correctly if I supposed that in teaching her to be concerned with our substance, I had ordered her to do something hard. For as she told me, he said, it would have been much harder if I had ordered her to neglect her own things than if she were required to concern herself with the goods of the household. For just as it seems natural, he said, for a sensible woman to be concerned for her offspring rather than to neglect them, so, she said, it's more pleasant for a sensible woman to be concerned for those of the possessions that delight her because they are her own than to neglect them.
Wow.
End of Book 9.
Yeah, I like the way that for Oeconomicus and his wife, it's harder and probably like physically harder and also spiritually harder in a sense to just let everything descend to chaos than to take the time and the diligence to just take care of it.
Yeah, I almost think the solution in part would be for people to treat cleaning and organizing the way they treat going on a date or going on a vacation. It's its own kind of event. And it's not an event of just like, okay, everybody, you go over there and you do this and I'll do this and you do that and you do, and we all go and we just do our things. But instead, I'm talking about every once in a while, this conversation where we all walk the premises and we all point and say, yes, I like the way that looks. I like the way that looks. And we all walk around and appreciate when things are where they go, and then have a bit more of a meaningful conversation of is this a good place for the shovel? Because, or there's all kinds of tools that are going to constantly get pulled away from where they go. And why are they constantly being pulled away? Is it because they belong somewhere else? Because the chances are, if they're being pulled away to the same place all the time, their location should probably be to where they're being pulled away to all the time. I mean, with pliers, there is no place. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But, I think that raises this bigger question. And was it us talking about this, or was this, I forget who I was talking to about this, but the idea of having almost like a sort of utility box.
I think we talked about it at one of our farm little conferences.
Having multiple utility boxes around the premises, each that has a certain set of tools, so you'd have duplicates of certain things.
Well, I started organizing 2 years ago, before you guys got here, the idea that each hoop house has a color, and for the small tools that you can afford to get multiples of, those tools had tape on them in that color, and they were always returned to the hoop house of that color.
Yeah.
And each hoop house has an inventory of small tools so that you don't have to borrow from another place. They have their own supply. What we have to come up with is enforcing that and cementing it in better, but also we have to come up with the bigger tools that do not, or that we cannot afford to have multiples of, like the broad forks or the tilther or the jang cedar. Those things have to have a location that is central enough that we know when we need it, it's easy to get from any of the hoop houses, and it's stored safely and securely. So when we do the organizing, that's one of the things we have to come up with, is what things have a central location and what things are inventoried in every hoop house so that they all are fully equipped and easily accessed when we need them. In the busy season, you don't have time to go hunting for tools. It's just such a waste of time and effort.
Right. And that's where I think another thing that we talked about as we were talking about this was the need to, like, I was calling it zeroing out a task.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm so guilty of, just like in our own living space. But when you're done with the task, even if you are not 100% done and you have to come back to it tomorrow, probably 9 out of 10 times, unless it is like a big broad fork and you're going to start first thing in the morning, it has to go back where it belongs. Because in something like operating a farm or even a house, there's other people, and so the system is not just for the benefit of one person, it's for everyone having that order. And so when someone else needs the hammer in HH1 and it's not there because someone took it out and never put it back at the end of the day, then you might as well not have that space. And so that's something we can all, I think, practice this year and hold ourselves accountable. Yeah, it's just end of the day, 10, 15 minutes, put everything back. You'll get a chance to like stretch your legs, walk around the farm, and then you're done. And then you can like be at ease and at peace knowing the next day the farm is ready for you.
Well, I have a question. Let's use the broad fork as an example, since I keep turning the beds in one of the greenhouses, which, by the way, when Mom says hoop house, she's talking about the greenhouses out here. They're built with hoops. That's why they're called hoop houses. I have to say that because I have had so many people cut me off and go, "What are you talking about?"
A greenhouse tends to be built of glass. No, but hoop houses are built of plastic.
Yeah, but this is for people in the know. People not in the know have no idea. To them, it's just like, oh, there's a thing that makes it warmer for plants. That's only a greenhouse. And you say hoop house and they go, what? But anyway, yeah, that is the distinction. These are hoop houses, not glass houses. Yeah. AKA greenhouses.
Yeah, covered in a plastic tarp built with hoops.
Long tunnels. Yes. Big, long tunnels. Very nice for growing stuff in the dead of winter, as we are. Mm-hmm. But with that said, I've been turning beds in one of them, and the work is piecemeal. It's like a little bit here, a little bit there, and it happens over time. And the broad fork isn't needed all over the farm. Mm-hmm. And so it has been staying in there, and that has been nice because we're all working on that hoop house. But I don't know, like, does that make it a different class of tool? Are there weeks where the location of a tool changes? I don't know. Because it doesn't make sense that, I'm going to run out and do that. Now I have to run all the way out to the shop and grab that.
Grab the thing to bring it back to where it just was the day before. Yeah, and that's where I think some of those bigger tools, it's like you have to use sense as to when and where it makes sense to say, hey, I'm going to leave it right here for the night. And I think just being aware of who's doing what and who is using it the most at a certain time. And if it's, we're just clearing out and flipping beds in one hoop house for a couple days, then why should it have to go all the way back to its kind of central home? But then once those tasks are done, once it's kind of not needed in a certain zone anymore, then it should go back. Or if you know that multiple people are going to be taking turns with it, there has to be some sort of, okay, I'm going to, do this one in the second half of the day. So when you're done before lunch, put it here for me. I don't know. Yeah, that is one we'll have to figure out.
And then I want to use 2 other examples of applying these principles and bringing it back to the sort of permaculture principle of the flow of traffic. And so first, with dog feces, doggy do all over. The other one with right here at this table, which is something I want to bring up because mom has an office and it's downstairs. And I've told her 1,000 times she should replace her easy chair in the living room with her actual office. And she could be posted up at her office doing things at her office desk right beside dad as he reclines and watches TV. Instead, mom sits here and kind of just scrolls her phone while sort of watching TV. But the table piles up with all of this office stuff. And it's not going to work to bring her whole office up here. That would obviously be way too up in dad's leisure space. But there's certain things about this space, because where mom sits is a sort of epicenter of activity at any given time, right? So it's like right here and right there. I'm pointing, mom's sitting at the table where she works a lot of the time. So it's like her office away from the office. And then over here, her recliner where it's like relaxation. Between the two places, there is a file cabinet atop which things accumulate. And then right around mom is where most of the paperwork accumulates. And then every once in a while, because we're having people over or because we're going to play a game, either that stuff gets moved down to the downstairs office and now she's got a big pile of stuff down there piling up, or it gets put over on top of the other stuff that's already on top of that file cabinet. And then we've got the Bibles that stack up on the, what do you call this?
Windowsill.
The windowsill. And there's other stuff like binoculars and random rocks and candles and things like that on this windowsill. Well, what I would say is just like, probably what would make all of the world of difference is just to take a 2x4 Kallax unit and put it where the file storage currently is, and then just have two file cabinet style drawer thingies that go inside of a couple of the Kallax units so that it's still serving that function. But now we also have an additional 6 surfaces, but now categorized for mom to be able to keep a lot of this stuff, because it does need to be here. And I think that's the main thing here is like, you can't let the idea get in the way of the reality. The idea kind of has to be adjusted to the reality. And so, when I start saying, well, she should just bring her whole desk up here, well, that's changing the reality too much as well. But the idea is to adjust the ideal so that it's, if your ideal of a clean space is a certain way, but it doesn't actually meet reality, that's gonna create a huge problem.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Mom?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you okay?
No, I'm going back to this whole thing brought up. You said you wanted to read books together and maybe put them on McKerracher Family Farm.
Yeah.
For farm stuff. One of the books that I have not read, I think I ordered it. I think it's downstairs. I have it, but I've never taken the time to read it. But everybody recommends it and refers to it. JM, the chef gardener, lots of people that follow on YouTube have referenced this book, and it would be a great one for us to read together. And it's by Ben Hartman, and it's called The Lean Farm. And the subtitle is How to Minimize Waste, Increase Efficiency, and Maximize Value and Profit with Less Work. And his whole book is designed at getting farms to maximum efficiency, organizing them, and minimizing waste. And, it's a great thing. The reason I have probably never read the book, even though I've ordered it and have it downstairs, is because I've always known, going back to time, energy, I don't have the time or the energy to do it because it took all my time and energy just to get the farm and learn the skills and run it to make a profit.
Right.
Now that there's 3 of us or 4 of us instead of 1 of us, I'm hoping that I'll have more time, energy to do some of the more in-depth organizing things that have always been there in the back of my head, but never had time to do, because now I can assign tasks to other people and that'll free me up to do some of these things. But
Right.
reading that book together
That would be good.
and doing it together would be a great way to get us all on the same page.
Yeah, because a little work there for maybe a couple years can create so much freedom. If we can have 6-hour days because we're so efficient and everything runs like clockwork, or just like an easy start to the day and taking a leisurely 2-hour lunch in between.
And walking the premises.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's Neversink Farm and JM, Curtis Stone, they all said the same thing. You got to walk the property in the morning, first thing, because with a notebook, because that gives you a list of things. And I did that for the first few years of this. And I always tried to do it with Dad, but he wouldn't do it with me anymore, because I would do it and I would come up with all these things that needed to be done, whereas Dad would get overwhelmed with all the things that needed to be done. And he's like, no, I don't need any more jobs. I don't need any more of this needs to be done, that needs to be done. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And so
He's like, stop giving her ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
So without me having somebody to share it with, or with me knowing that it wouldn't get done, so why bother overburdening myself? I just quit doing it. But it is an excellent thing to do. You have to be able to know the big picture in order to manage the little areas.
And I think that's where it's from, the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I don't remember what chapter, where he talks about when you're thinking about tasks or the things you need to do in your life, figuring out, like, you almost make a little grid. What is important and urgent?
Yeah.
What is important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and then not important, not urgent. And I think, because it can be easy. It's like I do it too, and so I've been trying to figure out how to prioritize tasks so it doesn't feel like there's 5 million things that need to happen all the time and they're all equally important. It's like, well, no, they're not. Getting my taxes done on time because it's tax season is a way more important task than me
organizing this cupboard,
some other whatever. And so in a farm walk, like, maybe there's I have an idea of kind of how I want to do it and how I want to organize my own thoughts about the farm and organization. I'm sure you have your own ways, both of you, but that's one, is like
you have to
being fair to ourselves by categorizing, and to Carrie, who is our little,
You also have to take into account personalities, because just like Covey, in his highly effective book, talked about there's urgent and there's things that need to be done. Different personalities can deal with it.
Right.
Dad is the type that he likes to focus on what needs to be done and getting it done. Whereas I tend to focus more in the visionary realm of things I want to get done. And I know that it's not going to happen today, tomorrow, or next week.
Right.
But this is for down the road. And I want to talk about it and develop it because it changes over time and evolves. But to Dad, that just is
Stressful,
overwhelming, and it becomes stressful. To me, that brings peace, because then I know what is going to go down the road. I don't like the unexpected. So, but you have to take into account those personalities and not overwhelm people. So, try and find somebody else that likes to plan ahead, but can also look at what needs to be done today and tomorrow, and work accordingly.
Yeah.
I love the idea of reading that book as well as a bunch of the other books. And I think that during the busy season, it'll probably be pretty hard to do that. But the nice thing is that we have this cold season where it's like we're lethargic and it's kind of slow going in the mornings, which is nice. It's nice to be a little bit more leisurely in our putzing about. But the thing is I think that, we always get a lot of energy Just that's one of the things that I found about especially ancient texts, but pretty much any primary text. If it's a primary text, it has incredible power. All primary texts, all of the ones that have been kept around for thousands of years, but especially even if it's just hundreds of years, but if it's been preserved and people fight and die to keep it around, it's powerful and charged. And so what Mom's always been nonfiction over fiction my whole life. Before I was born, she read fiction, but by the time I was around, she was always into nonfiction. And that didn't really click for me until I was in my 20s. But the thing for me is primary works over secondary works. Now, there are really good secondary works that draw on a wealth of primary works. And then in that sort of sense, they can become almost like a new kind of primary work. But going back to Xenophon's Oeconomicus, I think, is one of the most powerful experiences for me. And so I'm excited to share it with both of you.
Yeah, clearly it's got us talking about farm logistics now, which is good. I think more of that energy and just having those conversations will manifest into more action and organization.
Well, and reading some of these books and discussing them is good, and we can do that more in the off season. But I think we do need to maintain it even in the busy season by having a set day and time that we do it. And even if it's just for a half an hour, if we know it in advance that on Thursday at 6 o'clock we're going to do this thing, you save the energy for it. And it also will help feed and energize you and get you excited during a time when a lot of times you're overwhelmed, and if somebody came and offered you $1 for the farm, you'd take it just because you're done with it.
Yeah.
You know, you do get to that point of exhaustion mentally and physically, and this will help feed the mental and the spiritual aspect of you.
Yeah. So if anyone wants a farm for $1, come to us in August, and we might have it. No, yeah, and I think we kind of tried it a little last year, and maybe that's just something we can all be a little bit more accountable to each other about, is listening to something and say, okay, by Thursday, if everyone will have listened to at some point during the week chapters 1 and 2 of this, and if we have a physical copy, we can all take turns referencing if we need to, then we can come, because we might be by 6 o'clock, we don't want to sit and have to read on a Thursday, but hey, we'll all sit on the couch in our sweats with a nice lemonade and talk about what we all listened to. Maybe there's a way to incorporate that as well.
Well, and you're physically tired, but sometimes you're not
You're
you're not mentally tired.
That's true.
The problem will be that after 5, Dad does not like to have to deal with the farm. He's off work, whereas all 3 of us mentally still like to be involved in the farm.
I dream about the farm. I think about it. Yeah.
Well, he's still, and I relate to this in the habitus of a worker. And so, the worker habitus, which a habitus just means a body of habits and routine over the course of a week or of a year. But it's ground into you as a worker. And so it's just like, it's the 9 to 5. But in Dad's case, it was more like 6 in the morning until, 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night. But then, the idea is that you get to unplug from all of that and just unwind. But the thing is this is not just a work, or it's not a job. It's not a worker thing. This is our leisure. It's a lifestyle. And I think that's part of the shift here. And that the easy compromise for him would just be probably to say, it's just once a week. So, it's just once a week. It's just on Thursdays. Thursdays are the day of the week that we all go hard. No, I like Thursday because it's the day that we all go really hard in preparation for the CSA and farmers markets. Because the CSA goes out on Friday, farmers markets on Friday and Saturday. Even the new leaf market, the stuff is often harvested that Thursday. So it's just like Thursday is the harvest day. It's usually the hardest day because everyone is working till they drop, and then people usually drop at different points. And so then one person ends up being out there for an extra hour and a half. And so If it's a team day and we all just dedicate Thursdays, it's a team day, then we go out in one big hurrah at the end of the day. So the idea is like we all have a cutoff and we all work to help finish out everyone else's tasks by that cutoff. And then it's just like hey, we're going to do this thing when you said 6, I thought that's perfect. We probably want to eat at 5. And, so if we can get done by 5 and then eat.
Yeah,
and
but
then
Wednesdays might actually be a better day. Because
Wednesday.
we're harvesting, we're preparing, but we're not, like Thursday, there has to be a hard cutoff. It has to be done. Whereas Wednesday, if we quit at 5 and it bleeds over to Thursday, oh well, we're just going to work harder.
And then we're all spiritually energized.
True.
To go into Thursday.
Yeah, we go to sleep thinking about it.
Either one, yeah, I think.
I do like that.
I think maybe Wednesday's better. You go for Wednesday at 7 or 6.
Yeah, I think
whatever.
that, and I think, relating this back, potentially just, because, earlier in the book he talks about, on the one hand, farming being important in the most important work that one can do, but then also towards the end and just thinking about right ownership and order and all of it. I totally just lost my train of thought. I think I just had a mini seizure in my brain, and I just what am I talking about?
Right ownership and making things useful to ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Just like, what am I saying?
I was distracting you.
By incorporating this into our week as if it's like we all have things that we do, and I think there has been, like, for both of us, Dave, at least, resistance to schedules, like hard, rigid schedules, but at the same time, jiu-jitsu has a hard, rigid schedule, and we go to it, well, at least before I was pregnant, like 80% of the time, we're there when we say we're going to be there. Church is, there's no, maybe once in a blue moon you miss church for whatever reason, but like you go to church. So there are these things in our lives that are routine and scheduled that have to be routine. And I think having something once a week that is some sort of, spiritual, mental, motivational conversation about our farming lifestyle, and whether it's reading something more philosophical or an old text, or reading something very practical that's going to help us in a day-to-day. It's just, like, what kind of lives are we leading if we can make the time for jiu-jitsu or for coffee and concepts or for church? We can incorporate this into our lives as well, and on a routine schedule, and try our best to not, because it's easy, especially when it's in your own living space, or you set your own, I'm going to do this, or my husband and I are going to do this once a week, because there's not an outside institution or outside forces, or you like literally have to leave your property to do it. It can be easy to go, we can just do this another day, because it's like, no, if we can just say this matters to us, it makes us better in our hearts, in our minds, it makes the farm better, it makes each other better, we all get closer. It has to be like a no compromise. Like, no, we do this unless someone is deathly ill or a farm emergency comes up, something like that.
Yeah, we're traveling. And I want to close it out on a note about exegesis as opposed to just listening and then talking. When we did it, the issue was we all listened to Curtis Stone's The Market Gardener. We listened to the first few chapters or something. And the issue was when it was like, okay, so thoughts. And then it was kind of just like, oh, well, I liked it.
True, yeah.
It wasn't as invigorating as it is when you read the author's own voice.
I think it's better to read it.
Yeah, that is true.
Reading the author's voice, even if it's translated, as this text proves, there's a power because, for someone to think something out and write it down, there's obviously like a source of inspiration and experience, but then also if it's preserved over time, there's like accumulated authority that comes with it. And so, it's like we just spent time with Xenophon Socrates. Well, we can also spend time with Curtis Stone. It would be very expensive to fly him out, but we can, I don't want to use the word channel because it's too wooey, but in a sort of sense, you're channeling that person's spirit in a non-magical way. But it's like,
because you're reading their words.
His brain, like what was in his mind is now part of our conversation, influencing us. Like when you read a book out loud, it's like that person has said their piece. They're not in the room, they can't talk back, but it's as if they were a presenter and then they left the room, like, yeah, I like thinking about it that way.
Yeah, and so then the thing that I would say is that with exegesis, which is, reading and then talking about aloud, right? That's the idea of that tradition, which comes from scholasticism, from the medieval to Middle Age era. Monks would practice exegesis. One of the things that we practice at Theory Underground with exegesis is the idea that you shouldn't be doing it exegetical unless you have already done the reading. But the thing is it's not realistic for everyone on the farm to have done the reading. And I think what it would be is like, if, for instance, we're all going to do the next book or a few books of the Oeconomicus. If that was the case, then I would say, all right, everyone, try to listen to it beforehand. But I'm not going to put pressure on you because you should be listening to what you're inspired to listen to. But at least I've done it. And at least because if I want you to read this, or I want us read it together, the point is like, I feel inspired and energized by this, obviously. And so I can easily bring 70% of the thing, and then you can riff because you're all going off of a first reaction.
Right.
But I'm going off of a second, third, or fourth reaction. And obviously my accumulated knowledge that made me want to do it in the first place. Mom, with this book that she's excited to be reading right now, for instance, it's like, well, you should do the first pass, obviously, so that you have a sense for like what chapters you want to focus on with us the most. And then tell us, hey, if you can, read it ahead of time, listen to it ahead of time before. Yeah. But then, then we come together, we read it aloud, and then we on our first experiential pass are riffing off of it. Whereas Mom's got a much more, grand idea about why we're doing this. And I think that the same principle could apply to anything. So that if Dad really wants us to read something, well, the same thing. He's already done it before. He's ready to be the lead exegete on it. But then, of course, we're all kind of able to. I could just not read it at all, show up, be a part of the conversation, be a part of the reading, and then just riff on it, and I'm still going to get way more from it.
Right, yeah. That is a more realistic approach.
And that's what I want to do with these other books that I have on the table as well. And so that's what I'm going to be talking in part to the people at Theory Underground about today. And so I'm going to actually, share this conversation with all of them, but we're going to get out of here now because we got to get on with the day. And so thanks, everybody.
Way to start the day.
Closing thoughts?
Pulled me out of my Sunday morning tiredness.
Yeah?
All right, have a great day.
Thanks,
Thanks for listening.